Greetings Air Warriors, and welcome to my introduction to John Tiller Software Modern Airpower series using the War over Vietnam module. If you like what you see in this demo, there is a free Modern Airpower demo available at the John Tiller website. As usual with JTS games, they are provided with extensive documentation on how to play the game and also some notes on the history of the campaign. But today we'll be looking at War over Vietnam getting started, the introductory tutorial to War over Vietnam. I am sure many of you will notice similarities between JTS Modern Airpower and the excellent Shimano Command Modern Air Naval Operations and its updated sibling Command. This is the getting started scenario which the documentation supports, and it is a hypothetical attack on a North Vietnamese bridge by the US Air Force. You can zoom into and out of the map by using the mouse wheel or the number keys 1, 2, 3, 4. You see the lead aircraft in our flight is this F4E, which is of course the famous Phantom. The blue line indicates the visibility range of the aircraft. The yellow line indicates the radar. When selecting a weapon that can fire, its range is indicated by the red line. Our target for today's attack is the Ham Rung Bridge. As you can see, there is a North Vietnamese airfield which intervenes, and hovering over it gives it the condition of the air base. And everything is 100% at this stage. And as is the bridge. So if we look down to the lower left, you can see there's an image there of the Phantom, and beneath this are the 4 speeds that can be allocated. 443 is the cruise speed, and it's white, and when it's flying on the map and has a course, that course will be in white. 360 is the loiter speed in green. Once again, if you have it flying in this mode, the course will be outlined in green. 535 is yellow and is military power, and afterburner is 720. Notice how the fuel range remaining reduces significantly when you go to afterburner as compared to the others. Beneath that entry is some status indicators of the aircraft. Bingo is bingo fuel, i.e. it's out of fuel. Winchester's out of ammunition, and refueling when it's in a air-to-air refueling situation. And this aircraft can strafe. To the right of this is some technical information about the flight. In this flight we have 4 F4E Phantoms, and they belong to the 13th Tactical Fighter Squadron, which is part of the 432nd Tactical Fighter Reconnaissance Wing, which is based at Udon, which is a air base in Thailand. Underneath this we have the weapons that are carried on the aircraft, and the weapon in orange is the currently selected weapon. And the flight also has one ALQ-119 electronic countermeasure. I'll discuss these weapons a little bit more later on. Next to this is the runtime, which can be selected from 0, paused. The game can be paused by pressing the spacebar, and then selecting one of these goes from 1 times speed to 10 times. Time of the mission 1300 hours, and there's 30 minutes left in this mission. Next to this is the various menus, and on the very right is the auto actions. So currently we have it on auto fire, but the general mode of firing is control key and then right mouse buttoning on a target, whether that be a ground target or an air target. Let's have a look at some other aircraft in our flight. The EB-66C is our electronic warfare aircraft, and its role is to jam enemy radars. In fact, if you look closely at the map, you'll see there is a bright green rectangle which is pointing towards the northeast. Now that is actually jamming or blocking this radar installation up here in the northeast of the map. The idea for us is to fly our patrols within the radar jamming arc the EB-66C provides. Now the EB-66C by its role obviously doesn't need to get close to enemy installations or the target zone and that type of thing, so we need to be able to set a patrol area for it. So we could do this by selecting the particular aircraft and then right clicking on the map. We'll tell it to fly on this course, and it'll reach its destination in 1 minute and 36 seconds. Then by pressing the Alt and Shift key, we can then right click the map again and we can tell it to patrol. So the EB-66 now will fly to this location here. It'll take 1 minute 36 seconds, and then it'll fly backwards and forwards along this line. Okay, so if we go Shift right click and then delete that. The other way we could do it is use prepared tracks like this SOJ track. So with the EB-66C selected, Shift right click, add generic, SOJ track, OK, and OK, and there you go. It shows that it'll fly now to the start of the track, and then it will patrol backwards and forwards doing its radar jamming role while the rest of the aircraft in the flight go forward to the target. And then our F-105G Wild Weasel was its designation, but probably better known as the Thud, the Starfighter. So it has once again 4 aircraft in the flight, and it has the AGM Air Ground Missile 45 radiation. So the role of this aircraft was to destroy the surface-to-air missile sites. Whenever a SAM turned on its radar, it could detect this and then fire down the radar beam to destroy the SAM. So they were quite effective. Of course, it is only really effective when the SAM sites have their radar turned on. Naturally, they picked up pretty quickly that they couldn't have them on for long periods of time, so that's all part of the game. Following the thud, two Phantoms acting in the fighter escort role. Notice that they have the AIM air-to-air missiles, and they are escorting two other Phantoms which have the Mark 84 bomb. So these are ion bombs, so they have no particular guidance, just up to the pilot to initiate the correct drop sequence. And behind this is one more aircraft, which is the RF-4C. Now this is a recon aircraft, but it was in the tail of the flight so that it could overfly the target to take pictures of the target to see what damage the flight had inflicted on the target. Now previously I mentioned about all these different weapons that the aircraft have, in particular say the Mark 84 bomb. Now if you go F3, so we're looking for the Mark 84 bomb, which is air to surface. So here we go, Mark 84 bomb, sorry. Air to surface, so that's all the detail that'll be in here. NT is its flag. Now I found that if you go to home, control home, you go control shift end, control C, you can actually paste it into an Excel spreadsheet, and that just makes it a bit easier to find. So for instance, I can now go control F, Mark MK space 84, find next, okay, close. So it's air to surface, and it has these flags VT. So the asterisk indicates loads which are dropped when triggered. The V indicates it needs to have visual, or the pilot needs to have visual contact with the target, and the T stands for penetrating, so hence we're dropping it on the bridge. So there's a huge number of different types of equipment. Air to surface, here's the CBU air to surface, a weapon that's also featured in this flight, and there is a bunch of for instance air to surface, surface to surface for the ships in the game, submarines, etc. Different types of fuel tanks, electronic countermeasures, sensors of all sorts of different types. So all this information can be found in the database in game, but I find it's easier probably to copy it into a spreadsheet. Similar with the aircraft, they have their own section called craft data, and all the flags here. So a common flag is R, which has radar warning receiver. S for can strafe. D is Doppler radar, which is like a look down radar, and it can air refuel, and it refuels by a probe or drone, for instance in the MiG-29 case, and it has a bunch of other statistics there which you can check. And also when you go right out to the end of the table there's a great bunch of weapons that can be fitted to the aircraft. Now whether that be releasable equipment like missiles and bombs, or it can be attached pods like for electronic countermeasures and things like that. So the database has it all, so how you go about referencing that's up to you, and I guess it depends if you're into making scenarios and that sort of thing. Also quite useful with the load data is it has no earlier than. So for instance this particular item here, the Striker IAV, not before January 2004, etc. So how you do that's totally up to yourself, of course, but there's an idea if you like. Okay, so we'll check our EB66C. Okay, so we go shift right click, add generic, and we're basically ready to go. Before we do so, however, I thought it would be a good idea to have a look at the bigger picture. Hopefully, as you can see, the wedge from the EB66C is towards this radar installation up north towards Hanoi, and the two airfields. Initially, when I saw this aircraft here, I thought he was like doing a combat air patrol and scouting the northern flank of the attack flight towards the bridge, but if you have a look at his detail, you see that he is actually a strike package which has 24 Mark 82 bombs and 16 BLU 27s. If you have a look up the database for explosive, you'll see that doesn't have an entry for the BLU 27, which had me somewhat confused initially, but these are napalm canisters. So I thought, well, that's very interesting then. So perhaps this guy, the scenario designer, is giving us a clue that he wants us to attack this radar installation up north. So what we want to do as much as possible to stay within the radar jamming zone. Obviously our EB66, we've got him flying this way, and then he's going to go on this track. So I thought what we'd do is we'd kick off proceedings at real-time speed, or 1 by, and then with this guy here we could right click towards this track so that he stays within this zone. Then we can go shift right mouse button and tell him to attack. So at this stage we'll go strafing with the napalm. So there's our attack going in. So as you can see, as we'll also speed him up to military speed, and we might put him in at low, nap of the earth, try and avoid other detection by aircraft, etc. So we're still not getting any contacted action from up north with the fighter bases up there, so that's good. And meanwhile, our lead aircraft's still on his way. He has these cluster bomblets and the anti-air, air-to-air missiles and the electronic countermeasures. Okay, so while we're on the Thud, notice how he has the teal radar, which is the electronic intelligence radar. Our EB-66 is on his cruising path. Unfortunately, that then means our F4E going north doesn't get the benefit of the radar blocking, so he could very well be spotted. So far so good. Hello, so just hit pause for a moment and you can see here we have a SAM site. So there's two ways we could attack this. We could either attack him with the Phantom, or we could direct him outside its target envelope. So let's do the latter. So we'll go right click, and then we'll head him towards the bridge. Shift right click, fly to. Or maybe we should have said attack, I suppose. We might as well attack. Okay, so then we hit 1 by again and away we go. So we'll be right on the limit of those missiles. Oh, okay, so we've found a... Hello, so we need to grab our F4E here. Shift, right click on the MiG-17. Intercept. Our other combat air patrol plane. Yeah, intercept. Okay, so I've got a fair bit of missiles happening up north. Oh, here we go. So we go shift, right click, attack. Okay, this guy obviously needs to go a lot quicker. Now, who was intercepting this guy? Now notice how we've lost the identification of these planes. It's because we've obviously lost some sort of radar with them. Who's that? Just to let you know, there was a lot of jet sounds and missile sounds and explosions, etc. on my headphones, but it didn't come out in the recording. But you can see the mechanics of playing the game are relatively straightforward. Select an aircraft, shift right mouse button to get the menu, and select the various options. Obviously there's some things to figure out regarding when the radars particularly work, when you get all the full information versus when you only get the red triangles. A lot of detail regarding what bombs to use on what weapon, timing of aircraft coming in, and all that type of thing. So I certainly wouldn't call my example there a great example of how to play the game, but it was certainly a pretty good show as far as what a beginner will do when you're trying to learn this type of game. So there's plenty of things there to work on as far as playing the game better, so there is that sort of depth to the game, but typical of John Tiller games, the mechanics themselves are not that difficult. The difficulty is in the detail and the subtlety and the nuance of deploying your aircraft in different manners to suit their characteristics the best. So I'll let this play out a little bit, but I'll cut it short. I won't show the return leg, although there was plenty of action dodging, SAM sites and all that type of thing, but I think you get the idea of what right, so not the most perfect mission ever, but for a getting started scenario I think it's got plenty of bits and pieces there to keep you occupied. Practice some of the basic skills of playing the game, attacking, changing course, using the shift right mouse button and the menu dialogue that comes up. So plenty to enjoy there as far as playing airborne ops in War over Vietnam. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation of War over Vietnam, and certainly it would be interesting to get good enough, I'm sure, to play H to H, which would be the pinnacle for this style of game, I would say. Okay, thanks for watching. Cheers.